welcome to the Nicholas and Tally Show, where we chat with entrepreneurs, experts, and entertainers to help you live a more fulfilling life and take your business to the next level. This week on the podcast, we have Karl Kristian Flores. Kristian Flores is an actor, writer, and volunteer, and he's also known as Hollywood's dark horse, as he is a classically trained actor and graduate from the University of Southern California with a B.F.A. in acting. According to a Deadline exclusive, after completing this program, Kristian sparked a signing war among some of the biggest agencies in the industry, competing to sign this young star on the rise. His leading role as Simon Elroy in School Spirits is on Paramount Plus, and it positioned him as one of the industry's most sought-out young actors today. And if you're listening to this episode, that means all of season 1 of School Spirits is out now, and it is worth the binge, let me tell you. I watched it, and I loved it. Before we dive in, I gotta pick your brain a little bit. Are you looking to launch or grow your own podcast? Do you want to rub shoulders alongside the best leaders in your industry? How about turning your podcast into an absolute content machine? Then look no further. You can apply to work with me through the link in the show notes. I'm looking for 5 driven entrepreneurs that are ready to create a high quality podcast that will engage their target audience as well as strengthen their brand. If you're ready to take the plunge, schedule a free consultation with me today by hitting the link in the show notes. Riddle of the week: how do you deal with the fear of speed bumps? Stay tuned to the end of the episode to find out. That was the intro. Now here is the episode. We're going to dive right in. We're not wasting any time here. We're going to talk about the audition process for School Spirits. Here's what I know. I know that the first read, they requested 3 scenes, which I believe is 3 comedy scenes. You submitted a bonus one, last scene from the pilot episode. Then they started doing 4 scenes from there on out. But I want to know, walk me through the audition process.
We had to trailblaze that. We had to send in that 4th scene. I think what happened was my agents and managers just sent me the pilot, sent me the audition side, and say, hey, turn it in by Friday. And I looked at the packet they gave me, Nicholas, and I thought, why the hell did they send 3 funny scenes about a character who, for 8 episodes, is just crying over his best friend? And so I threw in that 4th scene, which actually they were like, okay, casting may not like that because it's kind of you're stepping on their job. Don't tell us what we need to audition. I don't know. I sent that in, and then the official packet became 4 scenes. It just made sense. But that's how the audition went. That was the first stage of getting School Spirits, was kind of just telling them how I want to do it.
Nice. I love it. I feel like having some creative insight on that maybe worked into your advantage there, because it's like, I care enough to like have some say about who this person is. You know, I want to do this extra scene. Yeah,
especially because self-tapes now are, yeah, we've been stuck in the pandemic for a few years, but it's still a new form, and you can really do anything with it. Play music, dance, set up the frame different. It's a different format, so you can really do anything. So I feel like if you can never meet the casting director in the room, any video you send them could be contained with anything you want. No one knows what a self-tape is yet, so I just felt like it was okay to do that.
Are you someone, when they audition, you feed off the room, you work the room a little bit, or do you miss some of that aspect? Or do you like the self-tape because it's like, I can do this 1,000 times and nail it and then send it in?
I feel that the room is the future, and it's the only way to secure who to cast, because it's those first sentences exchanged in the room where you can tell if a person's a good person. You know, you could be like an asshole and send an amazing tape, but when they ask you, how'd you find parking today? And you explain to them, well, I rode my bike, and I took 2 buses to get here, and I slipped and fell in front of everyone. And then they're like, oh my God, I used to do that too. And you could kind of connect, but it's strange with self-tape. You could be anyone.
A whole different world. So they hit you with the callback, and is it self-tape, self-tape?
Yeah.
Oh man, geez. Wow. And then you get called in for a chemistry read? This sounds like the big one. At this point, are you like, oh boy, things are moving and shaking here?
You're so scared, especially when after you're the final few in a TV series or a movie, they tell you how much money you're going to make and how much they think you're worth. And you're like, whoa, so suddenly you're not an actor who's worth their delivery. You're a number to the studio, for example. And so when we did the callback, I didn't know my number. I was taking it so seriously. I would go across the street at UCLA, and any scene that the audition sites took place in, I would rehearse in real time. So like I'm talking to a tree, the way he talks to a tree. I'd do that for like a couple weeks. And then I'd go to the cafeteria and I'd go to the library. I just want to get that real time environment, location acting, because I think that makes a huge difference in performance. And then when it came back to the New York chemistry read, that's when I had to meet Peyton. And I actually, no one knows about this, but it was just because some execs, they didn't like me. That's what I was told, is that they were hesitant on casting me for Simon, and they were just these figures in the shadows who said, not that one. But then the casting director and the writers were like, okay, how can we get this guy to win them over? Why don't they meet in person? That's the narrative I was told. And so when we met in person, I was like, oh God, there's these people that don't like me. So I came in and they covered flight, they covered hotel, right? And I came in with a suitcase and they're like, oh, have you not landed in your hotel room? Your flight? Thought we had a driver pick you up in a Tesla, the limo. And I was like, oh no, this is for the scene. So I kid you not, I roll up in this chemistry read, I unbox the suitcase, I unzip it, and there is every single prop and outfit for all the 4 scenes. I had a cafe table, a kitchenware, utensils, mug. I had a blazer for the winter, all these different things. And they're like, this dude, why is he putting tape on my wall? Why is he hanging these lights? But I took over that thing and they're like, okay, we might as well bring him to Canada.
You took it so serious. You knew you had a vision for the role of Simon. Do you think that's what won him over eventually, or they're just like, this guy, he's doing so much, he wants it so bad?
To be honest, I kind of did those decorations and that ceremony just because it gets me in the mind space. Like I couldn't perform one of the scenes without a beanie. I'm like, I just need a beanie because over there in that scene 1, I'm confessing my love, but here things are hard. I need a beanie. I don't know why. But I don't know why they casted me. I think I did see the actual other actors they called in though for the callback. And there were these, no, dude, they don't look like me. There were these tall, slender, model, handsome guys. And I thought, Jesus Christ, that's Simon. They were extremely good looking, 6 feet above, and I was just like, I did not envision this character to be so sexy, like a Riverdale.
They wanted people to take their clothes off throughout it. Like, I got you, Maddie. Let me save you down here.
I know.
Take off my shirt.
Yeah, I definitely could. I'm not that guy.
Okay, then tell me how the chemistry felt in the room, because this is the first time you're meeting Peyton, and it's just, is it a cold read, or you're performing the scenes together, just doing it?
They say, hey, we're ready for you. And you look around, and I call my manager quickly. I'm like, hey, there's no one else here. And he's like, yeah, it's just you and Peyton today for a couple hours. And all you do in reality, how is it in the biz? You meet your co-star, you give him a hug, and then they say, okay, scene 1 and go. Nothing in between. It's just straight up. No time to waste. It's not very jovial. It's kind of serious because so much is on the line, and they don't want to make the mistake. So I did it with Peyton, and I got to admit, we were both nervous. I looked at her hands for a second, and her hands were shaking. And I thought she already got the role, but she was nervous, and that made me calm down. And I don't know why. I never asked her why her teeth were chattering that day. But I guess anyone, when they put their heart on the line in these emotional scenes, they're going to get nervous. But I felt that we meshed pretty well. And the rest is history. It's
crazy. How do you even connect in those small moments? You just have to trust your scene partner, like right out of the gate, because you don't. Similar to what we mentioned earlier, you don't get to work the room for a couple sentences. It's like, nice hug, and now we're here. Like now we're pouring our heart on the line in these scenes and blurring the lines of like reality in this world.
That's the beautiful thing, that there's a dynamic in acting that I think is exclusive to actors that is so beautiful that you can't find anywhere else in the world, which is when you're in a room and 2 people are auditioning for a part, you already have to give them everything. You have to be vulnerable in a state to where if you reserve and you don't give them that line or you don't listen, it tenses everything up, and you just throw your heart at each other for like 60 minutes, and then you go back home and then you deal with the trauma. but I don't find that anywhere else. Maybe in sports, when the quarterback throws the ball to his receiver, there's a trust there. But with Peyton, like, we were both shaking. We were both giving each other our hearts without even really knowing the other person.
Wow. Did you think you'd get the part? Did you call your manager and be like, I think that went as well as I thought it did? Or were you like, hey, let's write that one off. You know, what else you got for me back in California?
Well, I was insecure because I did think I went overboard with the props because they made this funny joke like, maybe we should just fire our prop guy in Canada and just hire you for the props. And I was like, is that a sweet comment or a not sweet comment? I didn't know. I was actually uncertain if I got the role because Peyton did vouch for me. She did. I think she kind of wrote to the studio and said, I want this guy who I met today. And that was really sweet. I think that helped a lot of things. But yeah, I think I kind of needed the job too. I wanted it. I wanted this story, but I had quit my day job just before because I booked this job called Reboot. And I was slowly, like, my bank account was going to the point where when they said, we'll fly you out to New York and we'll get you a hotel and we'll get you a plane ticket, I thought that meant food. And so when I had $16, I called my friend at the airport, was like, dude, I don't have money. And he Venmo'd me money while I'm trying to audition for School Spirits because I was like, I'm almost to the end. It was so desperate. So we just had to go for it.
What a great friend. To be there at a call's notice, man. Reboot, you got your SAG card from Reboot, and that's what inspired you to quit your job. What was the inspiration to be like, oh, now I'm ready? You had 2 or 3 episodes there, and then you sent it all in. It felt like the right time. It felt timely.
Well, actually, while I would love to make it sound inspirational, it was so technical. Because that freaking production over there on Hulu, they wouldn't film me. They would call me to set and hold me. And you get paid to sit in your trailer, but I would come out at 8 a.m. Hey, Christian, they're working on the other scene, but we'll get to yours shortly. And I'd go at home in the evening and they hadn't filmed. That happened for a very, very long time. So I was missing too much of my job and I realized, you know what? I just got to trust that something else will come. So I quit my job so I could sit down and get paid. But they promised me a few episodes, so I was like, okay, this will get me by for a few months and I'll apply somewhere else. But for now, just enjoy this role, take your SAG card, do your best.
And you gotta watch some great actors do their thing too. That's pretty sweet. Let's hop over into like getting into the production of School Spirits. This is what I know. So throughout the filming of the series, you rarely took a day off, and you and Peyton would rehearse in the hotel rooms on the weekends so you can nail a shoot. What memories come up for you when you think about those like no days off kind of mentality? I imagine it's like a fairly long shoot to be.
It's especially not fun when you do a night shoot on a Friday and you wake up and you slept at 7 a.m. and it's 12 p.m. And I text her and I'm saying, now? And she goes, yep. And we go up and we go to the conference room so I don't know what was in us, to be honest. Even my agent told me that you guys are not going to have time and no one really rehearses. They don't get paid to rehearse because the preparation is so private that they take offense. A lot of actors take offense. That's like, I want to keep it fresh. I'm not going to rehearse with you. I've heard actors at the highest level. I know, especially because you want to do such a good job. But I think for her and I, we just really wanted it to be different. We knew it was going to be shot different. I don't know if you know, but all the scenes are so unconventional. You don't act with your scene partner. They attach a piece of tape and a stick to the camera. And because it looks so beautiful like a comic book, you act to the stick. And Peyton's 10 feet away. And so it was shot unconventional. The directors are so creative. The writers are creative. So we're like, okay, let's just do an unconventional preparation for this.
Man, so you're telling me people don't rehearse. I understand like the feeling of wanting the emotions to be fresh, but is it because they don't want to expose the rawness too soon and not have anything left in the tank, or And is this a process that you go through too? Do you like to rehearse more so you can nail it like this?
Well, I think people don't rehearse because they're afraid of getting rejected by another actor who wants to rehearse. It's such a sensitive preparation. But even for emotional scenes, people want to keep it fresh. I don't know how, but I know actors who work on these enormous shows and they don't read the lines until the day of. And I think, okay, freshness is one thing, but like knowing your material is another. So people are just afraid to work with like a method kind of actor, and there's some kind of awkward borders in the industry that I guess people don't know about. So it's very rare to go ahead and say, let's rehearse. But her and I, we established that pretty early on, because right after the chemistry read to New York, she was about to take her limo. I was going to go to the ride, and we're just like, are you hungry? You hungry? And we met up at this restaurant. We just started talking about our favorite actors, and she told me her favorite show right now is a show called Normal People. I think it's on Hulu. And I was like, yeah, those performances are so raw and natural. I'm the kind of guy that, cares about chemistry, and I just rehearse. I love to rehearse. She goes, I love to rehearse too. That's who I am. So yeah.
What type of pasta did you order that day? I heard you guys went to a pasta joint. What'd you order?
That's the thing about Peyton, is that she always knows how to order. So we've had so many freaking dinners, and she'll say something like, that sounds disgusting, like, oh, can I get this da-da-da-da short rib? I'm just like, good luck with that. And it comes and it's beautiful. I think it's just because she has a lot of experience fine dining. I screw up and I say spaghetti and meatballs. Get this bland tomato sauce with, well, I mean, it's just not as impressive. But I think that's a skill that certain people have, is how to order at a fancy restaurant.
I think I feel nervous in most places that feel a little too fancy. I feel out of place. Something off about it. I'm like, I'd rather go to a hole in the wall and get like a too big of a burrito. It's greasy, and most of the people don't even want to look at me. That's where I want to go.
No, that's my style. That's my style. And to be honest with you, the biggest surprise in this whole journey has been just how often it is to have lunch and dinner with someone. It's the dinners that caught me off guard. A lot of money spent on dinners, a lot of time. It's not, hey, let's hop on a phone call. It's, hey, let's talk about this script. Will you meet me here on Pico? And I was just not used to that. And so there's this sort of thing that the actor has to learn of how to structure a conversation, how to feel comfortable with someone fast enough. But that was the biggest thing I realized, is that it's a lot of sitting down to eat over a meal. That's how things get done.
Relationship building. Breaking bread with one another.
Yeah, break bread.
There's somebody on the set that you both have a love for poetry, an affinity for poetry, among other things. And I heard you said you learned a lot from them interacting. Talking Patrick Gilmore here, just from chopping it up, observing on set. What were your biggest takeaways from seeing him do his thing and just getting to be around him?
He did whisper in my ear once a secret that I actually cannot share, because it would harm both his career and mine for knowing it. But it's something about performing. And
what a tease.
So devastating. I know. I hate to be that person because I love to share information, but it could actually hurt him. So I don't want to do that. But I will say what I learned about him was really new. So I'm kind of a technical actor. I think that acting, especially on a film set, is like a dance. You hit your mark. You're working with a DP on the light. You're delivering your line. You're taking a note. You're juggling 15 things at once. Patrick Gilmore, he's versatile, but he doesn't juggle 15 things at once. He comes onto the floor with a heavy baseball bat, and you'll hear the cameraman say, "Hey Patrick, can you scoot a little bit to your left?" And he doesn't say how me and other actors go, "Of course, 2 inches to left, sure." He goes, "Yeah, but he's thinking. He's doing his own preparation. He's in it, and I've just never seen that kind of animal come onto a movie set. And I realized that you don't need to be that guy who's talking politely to everyone, and you, of course, be respectful, but the actor needs to kind of be in control of themselves, and sometimes that means not worrying about the 2-inch piece of tape to your left. It's about coming in. So I think that's something that I can share about Patrick Gilmore, is he did teach me to kind of be an animal.
to get in that headspace beforehand. I've thought about that too, about how, there's so many people, so many moving parts, and you do want to be nice to everyone, but if your scene's calling for something else, you really are juggling a lot of things. I got a long-winded question for you that I'm going to toss your way. Get ready. Strap in. Throw the seatbelt on. So for heavier and more emotional scenes, I think some people like to joke right up until they call action, and then other people, like we were mentioning, like to get into the mental headspace beforehand. You were recently asked about that big scene in episode 1, and you mentioned that you prepare for those scenes by understanding who the writers are, rereading the scripts, surrendering to that world, and most importantly, popping in the AirPods in between takes. I want to know what music you're listening to. What are you bumping in between takes? What's getting you in the headspace?
I found something on week 1 of filming that I was like, how have I not discovered this before? Reverb music. You know when they take like a popular rap song or like a Bon Iver song and they slow it to 1.5 or 0.5 speed and echo it? That kind of reverb music, I would just picture my character falling through the air and drowning in the ocean. That was what I was listening to. But honestly, I was listening to Olivia Rodrigo for some reason as well. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. I was caught too. I was kind of mumbling like, "Not you when you call," and then people were like, dude. But yeah, it was reverb and Olivia Rodrigo. But that's the thing about music and emotional preparation, is because, look, I made the biggest mistake of School Spirits on the first episode, which was that I was talking too much in the makeup trailer and the hair. They'd ask me where I come from, and I'd share, and I'd ask them, and we were talking. And then you start talking with a guy who mics you up, and you start having these great conversations. And it's a family. You feel a family, but when they roll action and you realize your mind is tired, I go, why did I exhaust myself? And I feel maybe it's different for other actors and they're better than me, but I feel that acting there's actually a source to it in your brain, that you could only think so many thoughts in a day. And in order to truly be in a scene, you got to think the character's thoughts, but when you've exhausted it in the makeup trailer, you're kind of taken away. So for a lot of those preparation scenes, I would kind of respectfully request my chair to just be in another room. Quite common for actors, but and then on the weekends I'd make it up by having beers with the cast, and we'd all have fun. But Monday through Friday, it's chair in the other room.
That's smart. The focus has to be there, especially when there's so much on the line. And I don't mean like production wise, I mean more of like the emotional stakes of each scene, having to be fully present and aware of them. Takes a lot. Hello, friends. This is Nicholas Itali, and I got a question for you. Are you looking to take your business to the next level and expand your reach? Well, have you ever considered starting your own podcast? As a successful entrepreneur, you already know the value of great content and engaging with your audience, but maybe you don't have the time, don't have the resources or expertise to produce a high-quality podcast on your own. That's where my team and I come in. Our podcast creation service specializes in helping motivated entrepreneurs like you launch and grow their podcast. From concept to launch, we'll handle every aspect of podcast production, from recording to editing to distribution. And with our help, you can leverage the power of podcasting to reach a wider audience, build out your brand, and establish yourself as a thought leader in your industry. And the best part, you can do it all without sacrificing the time and energy you need to run your successful business. So why wait? That's what I want to know. Why you waiting? Let us help you take your business to the next level with the power of podcasting. Contact us today by applying through the link in the show notes to learn more and schedule a consultation. All right, back to the episode.
It's sort of ridiculous how real it is for a film set to move on with or without your performance. I don't mean to be vague, but at one point there was a character in the show who had to have an emotional scene, and for some reason the actor didn't show up. And I heard, cut and moving on. And I thought, wait. When I read this script back in LA, I cried, but they'll move on without time. So the actor, basically in a 12-hour workday, has about 45 minutes out of those 12 hours to pinpoint and do it, and if you don't do it, it doesn't happen. So a lot of the tears or non-tears you see in the show were just because they either hit that mark or they didn't, but they will move on if you cannot do it. And so it's such a performance sport. I never knew that. I thought that if it really mattered, they would focus, but they won't because they'll think you're not capable of doing it. So they'll assume, isn't that strange?
That's wild. They'll just move on. It seems weird because it seems pivotal to the story. Like if the story or the scene calls for it.
But they will find other ways to supply it with lighting, music, the shot. Maybe they'll cut to the other person, but it just goes to show that it's not really a patient kind of occupation. Yeah, you wait in your trailer and you're sort of lollygagging, but when they call you, you have 15 minutes from 1:10 in the afternoon to 1:35 or 25. My math sucks. And then you're back in your trailer and you do it or you don't. So that surprised me as well.
But I'm super curious about how do you find yourself being present in those moments when it is such a move on kind of thing?
I don't know. When I was training at USC, you couldn't graduate without having a proper warm up, like a voice and body warm up. And it may seem kind of goofy when actors are going, but there's something to it when your whole body feels like a violin and you're alive and you can respond to impulses and give them. So every morning I'll just wake up 30 minutes before my ride comes, and I won't really talk to too many people throughout the set, just so again that resource of thoughts throughout the day is protected and it's not given away. And that's my biggest regret, is that I kind of gave my thoughts away socially in the first couple episodes, but I hadn't learned that I needed to yet. So halfway towards the season is when I started to become more conservative with my energy and making sure that the biggest thing I can give these people on set is not a fun guy to laugh with, but a good performance. Because we're going to go home, we're going to forget how fun we all are, and we're just going to watch the TV screen and we're going to be like, oh, thank God they showed up, you know? It sounds cold, though. I feel like an asshole.
I know exactly what you're talking about, though, because I resonate in the same way. I'm more of an introvert, so if I do expend too much of that social energy, I will get burned. You know, I will get burned out by the end of the day. So I definitely resonate. That sounds like a fine line. It's almost like shaking hands, being polite, but like it's crazy because I've seen so many parallels between athletics and acting. It's like on game day, people know that, you know, the high performing athletes are going to separate themselves so they can get focused and prepare themselves. And then the same goes for acting too, but somehow it's because there's like, it's always on throughout the whole day. Maybe some of that gets lost, but I'm not sure.
And you know what? It's easy to reduce that to drama, to a dramatic film or a plot, because you think, oh, that's strange. In a comedy, the lead actor in the comedy wants to move their chair away and we're making such a happy project. Well, I'll just say that on Reboot, it was insane to see what Keegan-Michael Key does on a production. He will perform exactly the same movements and take over and over again for hours, and all of us are laughing. And I realized that this guy, it isn't so improvisational to him. He's free, but he's very careful, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And it's no luck. It's because he's calculated, exactly. And so drama, comedy, all these actors at the highest level are a bit more cautious with their energy.
They're pros. I feel like I've been seeing you talk about too how the trailer space is becoming more sacred to you. You know, that's your time to, instead of rest, it's like the mentally preparing, rereading, understanding who you are in the world, all of those things. Which I feel like the temptation is it's probably full of snacks, and you probably get to kick it in some AC. That's probably nice. You're finding new things in the trailer.
Yeah. I mean, you get over it so fast. I remember the first time I'm like, wow, this is so splendid. This is what dreams are made of. But then again, not to be so severe, but the camera cuts, you go back home, and you realize that the only thing that mattered is what you did in front of that lens. And you can't really sit back. Like, it's so scary to go to Crafty and they have everything and the most delicious foods, and then you're bloated in camera and you burp and no one's happy about you burping. It's so strange.
Whole different world. I've seen you talk about how you've experienced loss early in life and how that's translated to how you portray Simon in a way. Can you tell me more about that and how that kind of shapes your character into his character?
Well, I wouldn't go too much into the details. Everyone loses something and they lose people. I Acting's so fun and it's such a ultimately it is a beautiful industry, no matter how cold it can be. But I think there's just a select group of people who don't really want to dance. And I call it dancing, which is like doing movies for fun. Like if I wanted to do movies for fun, I'd film them myself in my bedroom. But there's this sort of desperation when you just lost too many things and lost too many people to where you're just so concentrated and nothing can distract you. You just want to make important movies. Important movies, that's it. If you get a character and they're just dancing, you don't want to do it. And I think that's just where I'm at. Yeah, everything just matters to you. I think Charles Bukowski has this quote that is, when life beats the shit out of you enough, you start to say what you really mean. And I kind of apply that and see that in myself to where when you've just lost too many things and people, you don't want to make movies about butterflies. And so when I'm taking on Simon, I don't play him as some confused guy in high school. I want him to be someone who's looking for his soulmate and doesn't know where she is. It's not funny. There's nothing joyful about it. And I think at one time the showrunner came up to me and went, hey, your voice went like way too low. Just remember, you're in a classroom, like I was basically playing it like this father who lost his, like my voice was all the way here, and I was like acting like that. And he goes, whoa, it's a little not too there. But then you have to, so because that's just what I want to do for the rest of my career.
Yeah, the stakes have to be high enough, and it's like if that was the reality of the situation, you would be acting in that way. It's as real as it can get, and I think what you're touching on is like the depth. You want there to be depth, like in addition to significance and meaning to a piece, you want there to be a depth of emotion there that brings things to life. Yeah,
especially because anyone can turn on their TV and watch a show that's streaming, and if there's so much content, why not take a risk? You know, why make another show if there are already good shows? Well, because this one, we're gonna go for it. You know, it's just the urgency.
Speaking of TV, you don't watch TV or movies? You're an anti-TV movie guy? You don't watch them? What's going on with that? That's probably a hard line. I'm making it sound like a hard line in the sand, but
I love movies. I love TV shows. Something happened after graduating USC. I think anytime someone comes out of college, they go through this phase of adulthood and loneliness, and life's more quiet than they thought it would be. I would watch so many movies and TV shows, and I realized that it kind of affected my acting. And I said it in an interview once, but I didn't get to explain it. They weren't very interested. Maybe I explained it terribly, or they didn't get it. But I wanted to share that acting has evolved in some detrimental way. That for some reason, acting is regurgitated. That now that when actors consume so much media, they start to act like actors and not acting like human beings. Their source is like bottom feeding, like fish that take, from other species, and it becomes, again, second hand. And so I realized that sometimes I would be sending self-tapes and I would be acting like it's a close-up, and it was just not real, when in actuality, human beings are pretty large. And you watch how they talk, and they're just doing all these different things. And I'm like, okay, that is what I want to do. I'm watching too much TV. I kind of just have to go my own avenue. And there's a quote too. Alfred Hitchcock supported it, and I was so glad he said it, because I was like, oh, thank God. He was like, the more virgin our eyes are, the more we have to say. And so he just wants people to be selective with what they consume.
Yeah, I think there's a point in time where performances can inspire us, or like you're saying, they can detract when we're almost emulating them, or like emulating an impersonation of them.
You get what I mean, right? You watch someone and then you start acting like how an actor acts. Because I don't know, it's the biggest, it turns me off so much when a person just, in a scene, an actor walks into the room, character, and they go, hey, missed you. Who the frick does, hey, missed you. what? No, they go, hey, oh, I missed you. Like, there's all these different things that happen. It's just, why did it become so robotic?
It's very true. And I think the other hard part is if you ever have to perform a piece that is the same or at least super similar and you watch somebody else hit it first, it's like, oh, well, maybe I should have done it like that. Maybe I should have been robotic with it, you know? Maybe shouldn't have had those flares. Hey,
Yeah.
I missed you.
Because you watch older movies, right? You watch, my best example is the Philadelphia Story with Katharine Hepburn and all the greats, right? And I think, who else is in there? Everyone's in there in that movie. But they're so forward with their delivery, and nothing I watch has all this, dynamic way of acting, of delivering it forward. But they had it back then, so I think it's a generational difference in performance that has affected all actors today. Yeah.
I bet some of the online stuff too, depending on the show or the type of project it is. I bet online acting has crept its way into some of the mainstream projects just because it's like we need to keep the attention of our viewers. We need our retention. We have to have a retention. The attention spans are so short these days. So imagine if some of these shows are pushing for them to be super big or really really dramatize this instead of holding on to reality.
Yeah, and just the last point on this is, if an actor understands that and they try to pursue that type of performance in real life, they need to make sure they're working with a director who gets that. Because School Spirits was excellent. You have all these different directors, so it felt like I booked 4 different jobs because they direct their own episodes. And so you learn so much, but when you kind of try to be like a human being and every take is different, there's some episodes in the show where I'm cut and it's so wild and all over the place. I go, oh my God, they didn't get what I was trying to do. There's no through line. It was just me doing, they have this one thing where I go it's going to be a rager. But it cut from me being it's going to, but then there's this other director, episode 5 and 6, who he cut it like a perfect symphony. And I go, that's my collaborator for the future, Brian Danley, who just understood that you must leave the camera on the actor because that's where the life is. That's where they're breathing and living and thinking, and then they go. Not everywhere. But you could risk being very stupid, but I'm willing to take that. I'm willing to suffer the consequences some episodes, but
it's part of the nature of the being. I think the scariest part is, as an actor, you can tell a story, but how it ends up being told is not always in our hands.
Yeah, no.
I heard you allude about with each of your characters, you find how their physical characteristics differ from your own, like how they walk, how they hold things. Can you talk me through the process of finding those characteristics out and what that entails? Because I think that's fascinating, and I'll give you a little nugget too. It's like the person that thinks they're super cool does physically portray themselves in a different way with how they do things. So how do you find that for the characters that you go through?
I get a blank piece of paper and I draw a really bad stick figure, and I break it down from fingertips to torso to all his limbs, and then his feet, and the head, of course, and the neck. And the problem with playing Simon is that his personality is a little similar to mine. He likes trivia, he likes information, he's kind of a smart aleck, and he appears to not care about things. And I'm like, this is too similar. So what I kind of did was I tried to make Simon's physicality incongruent to mine. So for me, I kind of walk like a seahorse. I kind of walk with my head down and kind of stiff and small. He kind of waddles like a penguin. See, there's the vertical line, the horizontal and the vertical line right there, the axis, X and Y. And then even simple things like when I found that there was going to be an episode for him to be taking a test, I'm like, let's make him left-handed. And so from August, September, October, every morning I would write with my left hand. And it got pretty good. I was quite impressed. Are you left or right-handed?
I'm right-handed. I've dreamed of left, though.
It is so hard to write with your left. I was buying kids' books and just practicing cursive and it's so hard to draw like 6 and 9 when it's circular shapes of the letters and numbers. But that doesn't help performance. Oh, this guy spends so much hours trying to learn with his left hand. It doesn't help the story. But what it does is it helps with the thoughts. It just helps with knowing that this is a different person than you. And that was the key. Just trying to make myself and him incongruent, because there's a danger of being too similar.
Heck yeah. Because then you end up playing yourself, and that's really scary. That's the most scary you can get. Then it's too vulnerable. You're portraying your own all your own insecurities.
No, it's terrible. And I don't mean to sound like some this kind of guy, but I'm not too worried. But imagine how terrible it is for your first leading role, and you're playing you. After that, people are going to see right through it. Your career is in jeopardy, so you gotta, there has to be some difference. It would help if we're 40 years old. Then we could put mustaches and walk with a limp and stuff. Imagine I went to them like, hey, can my character have a limp and like a mustache? No, they wouldn't let it. But yeah, that's sort of how I prepared.
I love it. Switching gears. Back to the different kinds of sets that you've been on. I mean, we're talking Lionsgate, talking Hulu, the Paramount Plus, each with their own set of heavy hitter actors. I want to know, how do these bigger sets differ from one another? Is it in culture? Is it how do the experiences kind of change from big set to big set?
The structure of working on a low budget project and on a high budget project is eternally the same. You show up, the director will give you a note, you perform, and then you wrap. That template does not go away. On the higher level, you start to see directors who understand the thing. It's a secret phrase I keep to myself, which is, I don't want to share because I don't want people to start acting like the thing and you can't tell one person from another anymore. But some directors, like, they'll say that, oh, this character is this, we want this scene to be that way, but on the day they don't do it. They get rushed, or they don't actually care about these moments. But other directors know the thing, and their whole life and career is trying to capture the thing on camera. And the thing is some combination of realism and textured emotions, and some making sure that every scene has a twist in the stomach, that people are more complicated. A character doesn't ever say he's thirsty. He's saying he's thirsty because he's not thirsty. And I like those directors who know that there's never a scene that goes like perfect pulse. It has to go boop, 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 heart attack, boop, 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 every single time. 10 scenes in a script. So that's the difference, is that you start to meet people who really know that and understand that. And you can never tell from lunch. You can never tell from a phone call or an email. It's in the battlefield on set. And I'm really glad to have met those directors, because it's like, oh, okay, it's not such a lonely city after all. Let's do the same thing.
Yeah, that sounds like it's a reassuring experience for you, because what you're craving is other people that are also chasing the thing in how they create things, finding the through line.
You know what I mean? Like, I hate to be vague, Nicholas, but it's kind of like you're in a relationship with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and you're like, are you going to tell me the truth? Are you going to be real with me? Or are you just here for the sex? It's making sure that people are like blunt and straightforward enough to know, life's too short.
Life's too short to mess around with superficial things. And I think the other thing that you're alluding to is, like, you want people that craft a vision and are able to hold to it, rather than letting the external, influence them on the day of, because there are so many moving parts. But to sacrifice, like you're saying, the layered emotions, the realism, is not worthy of a sacrifice in comparison to the other things.
And a last note on this, I don't mean to delve too far into the thing, but what makes it harder is that on maybe it's because of interviews, actually, or social media, but everyone's vocabulary about art has just become so refined that they will use these words like, I don't know, nuance or complexity, perplexity, and you're going like, oh my God, yeah, we understand each other. But those are just words. You can't trust vocabulary. And so I wanted at some point in my life to throw in, it's on your podcast, but I wanted to throw in the danger of language. Articulation is very manipulative. You can never know nowadays. You just gotta You gotta kiss and find out.
That's a wonderful phrase. Everyone I want to work with from now on, I'm going to have to kiss and find out. Bring them over here. Just kidding. Scratch that. Don't clip that one. Get that one out of there. On your IMDb, it says you're Hollywood's dark horse. What in the world does that mean? Christian, I'm confusion. Tell me.
I had to Google dark horse because I didn't know what that meant when they first joked.
Katy Perry?
Is that the one that goes, "Who you are?" Da-na-na-na-na-na. What is it called, dark horse?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, shoot. No, so what happened was, well, it all started like a kind of a joke because we kind of came out of our training and hit the ground running pretty fast. What happened was, once I didn't have an agent and I signed with my managers, they asked around town who wants to sign me. And I eventually signed with Innovative, but there were some interested parties, different agents that wanted to hop on board and different companies that wanted to represent me. And then Deadline found out and leaked that article of that there was some kind of competition going. And I remember going to set on Reboot, I think, and like Kaylin Worthy or someone was like, "Yeah, I was looking at my phone and like I think I saw your face. It was 7 a.m. and you popped up and everyone in the industry just saw like signing war with this unknown guy." So after that, and then some credits came. I think it sort of just became a running joke with my team of how we were this unknown force that just wants to do really good and with the right opportunities can. And I don't call myself a dark horse. I call myself a seahorse. I'm a tiny looking on the ground but I guess some good things happened. And the article that we did for Press and School Spirit, some journalists wrote that in, and it just became a thing.
Yeah, I hope they're handing out that name tag for you every day. First day of set just says Dark Horse right there, so people know. But that's cool. I mean, that's a really good mission that you guys are all chasing for sure.
No comment. Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great.
All right, here's what I got for you. So at the age of 17, you received the President Barack Obama's Volunteer Service Award for your leadership and contributions to UNICEF. And you also won USC's Service Award. So it seems like volunteering has been something that's been a part of your life, and you've been intentional about integrating that into your life. What's the cause behind that, and why have you been so active in the space?
Not even trying to be cliche here, Nicholas. Not even trying to be cliche. I don't know. I really don't know why I started doing that, but it just became attached to everything I did. Every year I needed to do something. There's this quote by Albert Camus in this novel called The Plague, and he was like, "To fight the plague, there was nothing noble about it. It was only logical," or something like that. Like it was just the right, and that's sort of how I saw service, I think, which was, we're born on this earth and you have children who are sleeping without a pillow and it's freezing outside, or they're fleeing from war and they're refugees. Like, what the heck? Like, how am I going to walk in the liquor store and just buy a donut? Like, it just seems so unnatural, but it might have been because just how we were raised. Like, the houses that me and my sister grew up in were terrible. I mean, mice, roaches. I would wake up in the middle and then a rat would crawl against my chest and I would slap my arms because there was bugs on me. We lived in these terrible rooms because we didn't have money, single parent household, and we had it bad. But when you're a kid, it doesn't sound bad. It doesn't bother you. But I think like as I grew up, I'm like, maybe that kind of, I don't know. It changed me in a way, but I really don't know why I'm so involved. But I love doing it, and I don't think I'll ever stop. Sounds so cliche, but like genuinely, like that's, I don't have no idea.
That's great, though. I don't think it's cliche at all to say I don't know. I think most people are afraid to say they don't know, but it's a wonderful cause. As long as it's inspiring you and keeping you going and you're helping other people. Ain't no shame in that game.
Ain't no shame in the game.
All right. So if Simon is a bullet, what kind of bullet is he? What kind of bullet would Simon be? Because Simon's a bullet.
You see, he thinks he's a he thinks he's a sniper bullet. He's really a Nerf gun. He's just a Nerf bullet. I love how that became something. I started saying that in interviews that he's a bullet. Well, because they ask you a million. What? Tell me.
I watched a bunch of interviews for this, and everybody asked you the same question over and over. And I was like, I feel like I would have that response too. He'd find his way. He'd find himself being a bullet.
You see, it's so screwed. Because they teach you when you hire your publicist, they give you a media prep training. And one of the things is, if you really want to genuinely answer the question, and the way I would do it is, oh, how do you feel about your character? Tell us about it. I would want to talk about his objectives and how I prepared for the role, who he is, what his backstory is. But you just need that soundbite in the intro. So I just thought of a word that kind of summarizes. So I go, oh, he's a bullet. And then they go, okay. And then my cast would text me after that, did you just say bullet? And then I'm like, yep. Are you going to say it again? Yep. No, yeah. Because he's just so relentless, you know? But I think he thinks he's a sniper bullet. He's really a Nerf bullet because he fails so much throughout the season that he's just made out of soft material trying to penetrate metal, and it just bounces off. He loses so much, and it'll take a toll on him. He's still 17, you know?
Yeah. He's going to need a lot more Nerf bullets to break down those big metal walls.
I need to know types of bullets, though. Huh?
You should. I think you should start mixing them up. Like, get super specific in the next one. Like, Colt 45 bullet, AR bullet. I don't know. You're gonna have to do some digging on that because that's funny.
In one interview, I go, you know what? He's even a missile.
Karl Kristian Flores, we are rapidly approaching the final question of the podcast. You made it. Look at us doing big things. But before we do, I want to acknowledge you for all that you're doing. Christian, I love the work that you do, and I love who you are. I've been inspired by you from afar in the sense of I feel like you are your own person as often as you can be in as many circumstances as you can be. And that's inspiring to me because it's like, okay, there is room for outlandishly creative people. You know, there is room to like take these big risks and these swings and, you know, be our own person. So I appreciate you pursuing what you love wholeheartedly, chasing it relentlessly, similar to a bullet. Yeah, I'm really excited for you. I'm really proud of you too. It's great to know you.
Nicholas, thank you for giving me that ride one day after work. You've always been the sweetest person, and congratulations on the success of your podcast and everything you're doing on the internet. I know this won't be our last meetup, so let's just keep this going. What's your last question?
Final question of the podcast is, what does it mean to live a fulfilling life?
You see, naturally, every season, something else hits us, and we answer that differently. Right now, I think living a fulfilling life is trying not to be convinced you're an alien. And here's what I mean is that there have been so many situations lately where people will call either your creativity, your passion, or your feelings, or your identity bizarre. That you're overreacting, you're overdramatic, you're too sensitive, you're fragile. People aren't like that. Toughen up, harden up, roll with the punches. And you could feel like an alien because there's no one around you who's trying to do the same thing. And it's hard, you know? And I think everyone feels that way, that they all have their secret hidden love that they can't really vocalize because they don't want to be humiliated. But I think it's extremely fulfilling when we tell ourselves, you know what? There is no way the human spirit can be replicated. 8 billion people all acting the same. We're not NPCs, you know? We are actually unique. And so, you know, we're all going to try to avoid going down that spiral of thinking, you know what? I was an alien, but now I'm going to just be a regular. No. All aliens are human beings. So I just hope that everyone doesn't really surrender to the room and surrender to what people are saying, because it is terrible how they'll just try to mold you, but it's unnatural to be molded. What's organic is to kind of spill in a million directions. I think that is fulfilling. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
That's my March answer. It's been a fucked up month.
I'll ask you in April. I'll ask you in 5 days. See what's different. Where can people connect with you on the internet, Christian? How can they say hello? Where do you want to send them? Send them wherever you want.
All right, guys. I guess we'll see you on the Instagram. Christian X Flores, and I shall reply to you.
There you go. That link will be in the show notes. Go say hello to him so he can say hello back. Christian, thanks so much for being on the show.
Nicholas.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. That was the episode. You just listened to it. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Share this episode with a friend that you appreciate. It'll take 5 seconds and is a great use of your screen time. The real reason you're still here, you want to know the answer to the riddle of the week. How do you deal with the fear of speed bumps? You slowly get over it. Right over the hump. Thank you for tuning in. New episodes every Friday at 6 a.m. Since you're here, though, if you enjoyed this episode with Christian and have a hankering to hear more from actors in the industry, listen to episode 98 with Gabrielle Walsh. You're not going to regret it. Be kind, be strong, be disciplined, be obsessed. Goodbye!